Hello, Storm Knights. Once again, this is Zor Volachan, less than Guru, also known as Lehman and Crafton, here for a Torg tutorial on how to use dynamic lighting in Torg Eternity, which poses a couple of unique, I won't say problems, but situations that need to be resolved. Now, with Roll20 dynamic lighting, you do need a paid subscription. I believe that it is a pro account, but maybe it's between the free and the pro, but I do believe it is a pro account. I have showed you in other videos how to set up the map, how to make and set up character tokens, character sheets, threat cards, etc. So I won't go through any of that today. I'll just focus on the dynamic lighting aspect. And like my last tutorial over how to set up a scene in Roll20, I'm hopefully going to be able within the next week or two to have a recorded playthrough that then I'll post to this YouTube channel. In the theme of October, I have decided to do the Delphi mission in Orish that is Cali Stations Gone Dark. So if you haven't played that and you plan to play it, I would suggest you play that first before you watch it. But if you're a game master interested in it, or if you're not going to play it, feel free to watch this video. And we'll go ahead and get started. As with all of my or the last two videos, I use grids for scenes that potentially, not always, but potentially will involve combat. I think that it sets things up pretty good and it makes it so that certain things like line of sight, distance, etc. are easier to manage. But Torg is perfectly playable in Theater of the Mind. I played original Torg Theater of the Mind for over 25 years. It's just with Roll20, it makes maps easy, and I figure if it can be used, why not use it? One thing I did remember that I forgot, and that's the thing with these tutorials. They're not edited. It's start to finish, and you'll see all the mistakes I made, which is a good thing because sometimes a instructor will say you do this and you do this and you can't find where it is, or you do something else, click something. The Roll20 sometimes glitches, so it's good to see people forget things, because then they'll show you how to do it if they forgot, and then you can remember. So one thing I did forget, so I'll need to go up here to my page toolbar and go to my page settings. And I had forgot to change it from 5 foot to 2 meters. As I said, my personal preference is 2 meters. It's about a little over 6 feet. 6 feet is close to the normal standard, like D&D type 5 foot grid, so I find that to work well. It means when you're moving, you move half the number of your normal movement within squares. So if you have a movement of 8, then you can move 4. If you have a movement of 10, you can move 5. I always round down. That's just a personal rule of mine in every game that I game master, so any of my players don't have to remember that. So the first thing we want to do is we've set up the map. I've set up the map, and I've put my threat token card here, and I keep it as a token and not part of the map. I'll show you, if you go here to layer and you move it to the map layer, you'll see that then the grid is overlaying it, and that can sometimes be a problem. So now we have to go back up here, go to map and background, click that, go to layer, and put that on the token layer, and then we can go back to the objects and token layer. Also, I don't like putting too many things on the map background, because if you start moving something, a small token on the map background, you might accidentally grab the whole map, and if you spent a lot of time aligning the grid, like I showed you in I believe it was my original video, how to use the is as a drawing and the align to grid to get it to work pretty well. If it moves it off, then you have to move it back. And what you can always do is, like what I just showed you, is you can then lay things as tokens and then click to this layer, and then you can put it on map layer, or you can put it on the game master layer. Now normally I have only used the game master layer once in Torg, and that was for the Fires of Ra adventure, and in that adventure there's a certain path that characters might take. I don't want to spoil things, but I used the GM layer to mark the correct path, so that while my players were walking along that path, I could make sure that they were doing things correctly. So it is something that you can put in the layer, and only you as the game master will see. I will warn you, there's something strange, and I don't know if it is my brother's computer or if it's something else, but the last 2 times he's played where I've had dynamic lighting, he has been able to see, the first time he was able to see my entire map without any lighting at all. So everything just showed up just like you see here, even though for all the other players they were doing the dynamic lighting. And this last Sunday, just a couple of days ago, was game mastering, and he was able to see everything as I saw as the game master. So do beware that sometimes, I don't know if it was his browser extensions or something like that, but sometimes there's something wonky with something, and certain people might be able to see the maps. And on that one, he just kind of didn't say anything to anybody else, and I could tell that he wasn't using outside information. So hopefully you'll have players that if they see that, they won't use it to their advantage and just go along with it. So to begin, we have our nice map here, and it is by a neutral party. I've used a couple of his maps. Basically, I like trying to make my own artwork if I can, but I'm not really good at maps, so I do search the internet and I pull maps from that. If it's an official Torg map, I use that, but sometimes Torg doesn't have maps for a scene that I want, because again, Torg is written for theater of the mind. All the rules translate really well except for the blast rules, and my alternate grid-based map blast rules for battle maps have made things work smooth. It's shored up that one small tiny hole in the rule set, and everything's worked fine in the 3 years that I've been playing Torg on Roll20. So if we go over here to that again, where you have your map background, your objects, your game master, you'll see this dynamic lighting, and you click that, and then that takes you to a layer, and it looks the same, but you will see that the token for that horror that will appear in the adventure. Everything else looks the same but that. Now what I want to do is I want to set up the dynamic lighting borders. And explain what dynamic lighting is if you have no clue what it is. It basically makes it so that each character can only see what is in their point of view. So they will see their token and anything that their token can see. But they won't be able to see anything that any other token might be able to see. They won't see through walls. They won't see through doors. And if a door is open, then they'll only be able to see what's inside of, say, a room or something, as if their character had line of sight. So as an example, down over here on this map here, that's the entryway. So if you have a character looking into the entryway, they shouldn't be able to see anything over here and over here. So what the dynamic lighting will do, if you have a character here, and you open the door, it'll kind of show them that inside area. It won't show them the other area. One weird thing, though, is it does kind of project 3D-ish. So even though we're looking straight down, two-dimensional, there's some weird 3D effects that sometime happen, especially if you use the dynamic lighting within, say, columns and things. It's kind of weird, and you'll see how it is here. I'll show you how everything looks. So we're on the dynamic background, and now what I do want to do is I want to go to my settings, and I didn't do this because I want to show you how everything's done. On your page settings, you have your page details, which I showed you last time, and you can use it with this was the old dynamic lighting. There's a new dynamic lighting, but you can use it with the fog of war. So if you both want to make sure that players can't see what they shouldn't see, you can cover it up with the fog of war, and then you can uncover it as they open doors and things, but you don't have to. You can just use the dynamic lighting. So if we open up the dynamic lighting, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn it on. So we just click that, and then Explorer mode is something I really like. Explorer mode is, it will have what your character sees in color. They won't know anything that they haven't already explored or looked at. But if they've already explored something, say they've gone into this room here, and then they go into this room, they might see a little area here, but they wouldn't see here, but it doesn't go all black. It kind of goes black and white. So they can still see the past that they went, but if threats, monsters, creatures, NPCs, other characters will not show up. So as a game master, you can move things and the players won't see it. If you remember the last time I darkened the borders so that I could hide my tokens there and then pop them on the player. What the dynamic lighting does is I can move them around the map while the players are doing things. So that's what Explorer mode is. So I like Explorer mode, and I'll show you how that works. What the daytime mode is if it's in the daytime, you can just turn that on, and the whole thing lights up, but you can't see through buildings and walls until you go there. So in this adventure, I want it to be at night. If for some reason the players insist that they only go in day, I can just come here and click it, but right now I'll keep it off. So then I hit OK, and you saw everything just kind of went gray. So everything is in kind of a nighttime dynamic lighting mode. Now what I want to do is go back up here, and I want to hit polygon line, and then the color of the line will pop up here. My personal preference is for walls to use yellow and doors to use red, but you can use any color you want. These are just really bright colors that stand out to me, so I can easily differentiate between the two. If a player opens a door, I'll show you how to open a door, and walls can be there. One thing, if your player is like busting through walls, apparently one of my friends, his game master in a game that he plays under, a different game, I'm not even sure what game it is, the players always bust through walls. So he usually makes lots of segments so that if players bust through walls, he can just remove a wall segment instead of having to remove a whole entire wall or building. My players tend to not do that, so I'm just going to show you how to do normal, but by the way I show you how to do doors, you can use that also for wall segments. So I like to use yellow for my walls, and you just are going to right click, and normally it's going to be a line, so you click and it starts the dot here. If you then, that was a left click. If you right click, it goes away. If you left click and you do another left click, it makes a line, and as long as you keep left clicking, it'll keep making a line. And this line, once it connects, you saw kind of fade away. Players will not be able to see through that line. So everything within this line will be dark, and anything behind it will be dark because it's considered to be blocking your view. So if you have a token down here, I'll just make a little thing, say that this is my token because I'm not on the token layer, and he's looking this way, he's not just not going to be able to see this, he's not going to be able to see any of the trees or anything behind here either because his token wouldn't see it. So that's where you kind of get the weird 3D effect, because it's not just blacking out the area that's blocked, it's also blocking out the area behind it. So if I go here to my select move, I can draw a box of those two things, and I can hit the delete on my keyboard and they go away. So I want to go back to the polygon, and it's at my yellow. So I guess I chose a real difficult, it's one of the few Orish, or Orish, I always pronounce that wrong, forgive me. It's just the way that I first did it, and before the internet, it's how we called it in my game group until Torg Eternity came out, and I realized I've been mispronouncing it for 25 years. So Aurorsh has 2 adventures in the Delphi missions. One of my 2 groups has already been through it, so I don't want to do that because some of the people that might game in this might be from the one that was there, so I don't want to repeat myself. So you got a circle, so that's going to be interesting, and it'll show you how to do it. Basically, I just have to make tiny little baby step dots. So like I said, each time you left click, it's going to add to it, and then when you right click, it's going to stop. If you do the last left click to connect something, it'll be fully connected. If it's not, it'll just leave it. And we're going to leave it because of that door here. And I want to be able to put an opening, a doorway that can open there. If I don't, then that is going to stay. If I make one dynamic line circle-ish a line, then players won't be able to move through or see through the whole thing unless I pick them up, the tokens, and then put them inside. And then you won't see the neat thing when you do that open the door effect. So I'm going to start here, and I'm just going to try to slowly or quickly, it depends on how good. My art on working with a mouse is not good. So I'm actually pretty impressed by, I'm actually kind of sticking in these wall. Luckily the wall's pretty thick. So you just kind of go around. And then I kind of got it to the end. This didn't fully fill, so I'll show you how to do that. But basically I have my line, and now I'm going to right click, and now it's set. So here I'm just going to left click, right click, and that formed. So I'm not going to worry about the doors. I'll do all my walls first, and then I go back and do my doors. That way I don't have to just keep doing colors. But if you want to be a completionist and do everything, however you do it, I'm just showing you the way that I do it. You can do it what works best for you. So now we have the little staircase interior. And I know that the adventure calls for it to be 4 levels, but sometimes I change things to fit maps I find, or some things I just change to change. So on this one I'm only going to do the 3 levels. And if I forget if I told you something or not, I might repeat myself. So this is off because the maps, the base map, the hex or the grids didn't line up. These two on this big map were off. So basically I did a snippet tool and cut this out and was able to align it. So that's why it's a little off. And this Neutral Party does some pretty cool maps. I've used a few of them. If you like them, you might think of doing a Patreon for them. If I use somebody's material in my tutorials, I will let you know. Like I said, I like doing a lot of my own artwork for characters and NPCs and threats and stuff, but I cannot do good maps myself. So I have to do the search on the internet thing. So here we have all the walls. So I'll do the same thing up here. This looks like it might be a window. And the same here. If they're windows, I don't always make them like doors. Especially this is a higher level. If somebody needs to look out, I'll just explain to them, theater of the mind, on what it is, because if they look out, all they're going to see is this thing. So basically, I'm just going to make a complete circle here and then do my other walls, because I don't need to do a door. So, and I'm being careful now, but with a lot of things, once time passes, I kind of get less and less patient. So if you see something that suddenly seems like that kind of there, it's basically just because I start going faster and get sloppy. So here I'm just going to connect it, and that time I didn't have to click the right click. As soon as I connected it, it did that. Now this we will keep open. And you might notice also the thing kind of went along with the defense, and the NPC Nicholas, I can't remember the last name, like Alset, something like, whoops. See, I messed up. I covered the door. So all I have to do is right click, go up, select move, select that, delete, and start again. It is kind of bad when you are trying to do a full thing and then you realize you messed up and then you clicked it. I was making a dynamic lighting and a battle map last weekend, and I did everything and then realized I did it on a different layer, and unlike where you can move something to the game master layer or the map layer, you cannot move things to the dynamic lighting layer. So I had to redo a whole fort basically. And as you saw here, actually I can do it here. If you go farther, that's not a problem, because when the player is in this room, they're not going to see past that, so they're not going to be able to see that wall sticking out there. The only way that they would be able to see that kind of look weird is if you put their token outside of the tower. So on certain inside structures or structures that you cut out things, it doesn't really matter. So I have everything here for this level. And actually I'm gonna, when I do the game, this is my first level, and then I'm gonna go up here to the second level, and then the attic is gonna be this one. I know the stairs kind of look off, but I'll just explain to my players. They understand that the maps don't always mean what they said. It's basically, I wanted to put that that cannon, that gun barrel that shoots out the beam. I thought that would be a good place to put it. So like I said, I usually make maps fit what I need them to make, or make the adventure fit the maps, or do a little bit of both. So on this one, I can just go here. I'll show you how you can just kind of go around like that too. And the more you work with it, like anything else, the better you get, the more you learn. Just 2 or 3 weeks ago, now this is where the cannon barrel thing sticks out, so I'm going to close it. You always learn stuff. I learned an interesting thing that I'm going to show you. I would have showed you on the other video, but I didn't know about it. And I guess I could like read all the stuff on Roll20, but I would forget it until I needed to use it in a game. So here we have all the walls that I need set up. Now I need the door. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go and do red, because I said I like to do red as a door. And then you don't have to be perfect. And what I suggest, though, is you always make sure that you're connecting the walls with your door. If you don't, there's going to be gaps that can be seen through. So like my first door is here, so I'm going to try to start it right on and right end on the wall. And if you wanted to make it curved, you couldn't, or you could, but I'm just making it straight, make it easy. And they don't have to be perfectly straight. You can see that one's a little diagonal, as long as they're not going to let light through. And if you want to, you can even make it big. You can make it like that. That's fine. They're not going to see through it either way, so that works. So I have my doors. So now I'll be able to show you how dynamic lighting works once you have everything set up. So I will go over to the back to the object and token, and you'll see everything went away, because that is only on the dynamic lighting. So as a game master, if this was on a GM screen, or GM layer, you would be able to see it. If it was on the map layer, what we just drew, everybody would be able to see it. But the dynamic lighting, if you go to a different layer, you won't see it. You have to go back to the dynamic lighting and then you can see it. So a thing to remember is if you're using various tools that you might not see and you're describing something, like say the players open a door and you know they're like, I can't go through, or what's there, and you're confused, you might just have forgot to remove one of the doors. I'll go ahead. I'll show you actually a little later how to move the doors so that you can see how that works. So I wanted to go to the object and tokens layer. Okay, now I think I've showed you before, I like keeping a start area that has the tokens for characters. I don't know which characters are going to play, but I will show you how to set up a token for dynamic lighting, because each character is going to have a token for the lighting. So what I'm going to do is I have my two player characters from the last game, Jean-Paul Clouseau and Void. So just in interest of showing you how different things work, and let's use the little assault droid guy too. Let's just, for dynamic lighting purposes, let's say that Void can see in the dark, has something in his helmet that allows him to like night vision goggles. Let's say that the assault droid, and I think that was one thing that we might have brought up last time. This one of this, I think it's not the scout. I think it's the assault droid can light up, like it can make itself like a light source. So we're going to say that this is like a 360 degree light source, like it can glow like a glowing, put a glowing hologram ball around itself. And it will be the same effect as if you have a lantern or a candle or a torch that's going 360 degrees. And now let's say that Jean-Paul is having a flashlight. So the flashlight is going to go probably farther than the torch, but it's going to be a beam. It's going to go kind of in one direction, kind of in a cone shape. So that way I can show you and you can see how all different types of light sources work. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to double click and go to dynamic lighting. And it does say updated. Like I said before, there used to be a little, it was different. And they went through the changes. I was actually getting ready to make a video with dynamic lighting, and they started changing things, and I decided that I would wait until things changed. So token vision, can the token see? So we want to say yes. Otherwise, he's not going to even probably be able to see his token. So the token vision allows him to see his token on in a map that has dynamic lighting. So we said that a Void was going to have night vision, so we can click that on. And night vision is going to be 360 degrees in case they turn around and look around. So you can just put however many meters you want to have the person be able to see. That's kind of up to you, because I don't think that the Torg books actually tell a specific distance. But remember, each square is 2 meters. So if you give them 10 meters of night vision, that's going to be only five squares. As you remember, our map was kind of small, so if I did that, that would be fine. But I'm going to give him 20 meters. And then you can make the tint color different things. So like in my main normal game, like elves have usually in fantasy tropes like an infrared vision, so I'll tint it red. And night vision goggles have that greenish thing tinge to it, so I will make that kind of a green color. And then for torches and such, I give it a yellow color. So you can actually set up the tints as you want as a game master. And I'll do 3 different tints just to show you how they overlap on the map. So this one is night vision, so I'll go ahead and you can choose something, and I'll choose kind of the greenish here, and night vision effect. And you want to sharpen it, and I'm not, if you don't, some weird things happen. Dim, I guess, is you'd set how far off you can see clear, and then it changes to dim light afterwards. But I've found that it doesn't always work very good. So I usually just do the sharpen effect, and Roll20 is slowly changing things. So if you want to mess with that and look around, feel free. I'm just telling you my findings as of now. Limited field, like I said, night vision, I usually, the person can just turn their head, so I don't worry about limiting the field. And then this is night vision, so it's only going to apply to him. Other people are not going to see his night vision, so I'm not going to have token emits light. So then I can just save, and he now has night vision. Now, one thing, and I might have mentioned it to you, Roll20, when you save a token to the character sheet, it saves that token at that instant. So since I've updated the token, I'm going to need to update the token associated with the character sheet. So actually that was void. So if we go to edit, and even though this was the token, if I would take this, and we'll see, you'll notice all of that's off because that token that was saved is no longer this token. If we go to this token, though, we'll notice that the dynamic lighting was saved. So if I need to remove that, and then this is selected, so I'm going to use that selected token. Now, save changes. If I drag and drop that token, now all of the dynamic lighting is on. So anytime you change a token for any reason, whether it be size or dynamic lighting, say they had a flashlight and they didn't like it, so they got a torch, or then they picked up some goggles. Anytime something changes with the token settings, you're going to have to remove that token from the character sheet and then add the new token. So we said we're going to give the assault droid kind of like a holographic emission of light. So we'll give it vision, so you can see, so the person in control of the token can see the token. And we'll give it night vision. Let's say, though, that this is only going to do a 10 meter. And then the tent color, let's just, for fun, give it a blue color. And I want to sharpen that. It's going to go off in all directions, but now it's going to emit. And when you do that, we want to also do this as it emits light of 10 meters. And say that it starts getting dim at half that, you can then tell it to dim at 5 meters. And we don't want it directional. So the total light actually is 15. So sorry, at 5, this is where it's a little different than the old one. So the total is going to be 15. 10 meters of it is going to be bright, 5 meters of that 15. So actually, I just wanted 5 and 5. So now it's 10. 5 meters of bright, 5 meters of dim. And we'll save that. And again, I go to my assault droid, remove the old one, use the new one, and save it. And then Jean-Claude, we will give him vision. I'm not going to do night vision on this one. I'm going to do token emits light. He's carrying a flashlight. So let's make the flashlight 20 meters. Double the distance of the torch-like light of the assault droid, but it's going to be direction. So let's actually give this 10. Or 10 and 10. So 20 total, and we want to do directional. So total size of the field of light, and 50% of light is before the center. 50 is after. Interesting, because this thing must have changed a little since I've played with it. So let's directional light, set the direction of light emitting from the token. So let's say we want to give it a 45-degree angle just to see how that is. And let's save that. Now let's go to the map. Oops. Again, we have to edit, remove, and add, and save. Now we can move to our Cali Station map, and I'm going to have them outside of the building, so we'll add void here. Whoops, I added his portrait, not his character. Let me close the portrait. So we'll add void here, and you see this big space now shows. So he sees everything in that space, up even including this part of the map. So that was one thing that I didn't think of. So if we go to the map and background, and again, this is why this is always, or the dynamic lighting, this is why this is always a good tutorial. Let's give a border to that map. Now I don't really need to for this one, because when I take their tokens and move them onto the different levels, they're not going to be outside of the map. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a big spot down here, and I'll, oops, see, I messed up. Not a problem. I go and pick that up and delete it, and then we'll try again. I needed to, and I'm doing this here, and I'll show you why. This is going to be a playing field. This is going to be a place where players can play their cards. That was the hardest thing that I had as a game master was trying to figure out a way for players to see cards being played. And I tried all different types of things, and finally talking with one of my friends about the dynamic lighting, we figured that out. So okay, I'd like to apologize because apparently my video stopped and I didn't realize it, and I was recording for quite a while, and only when re-looking at things did I realize that it just randomly shut off. So I'm going to have to stitch this to where the cutoff was, so that you get the full thing. So I want to go back to the dynamic lighting. And what we were talking about was how to make an area, which on this map is going to be down here, to play cards. And normally what I would do is I would take a piece of white paper. I just took a white square that I found, if I can spell white correctly, here, and I would just kind of fill in that area. But as you see, when it goes here, it blends in, and you might not realize where it is. So what I decided to do for this video was to use the Torg symbol. So I'm just going to grab a Torg Eternity symbol, and I'm going to show you what you can do on any with any one square or two squares, how this will work, and then how it works with using the area for the card play. So if I'm on my dynamic lighting, I can click on this. I can turn on the dynamic lighting. I can say it emits light. Let's emit 10 meters. And we'll say that it's like a fireplace. And let's say instead of a stairway here, it's an actual fireplace. So if I go here and I click Advanced is Drawing so I can get that centered, you'll see that the lines come out here. So if I go to my map, objects in a token layer, well, he has light. So I want to show you what that looks like if he doesn't have light. So let's go to him and let's turn off his vision. And let's put him in that room. If we go to rejoin as the player, and when we come back, you'll notice it there too. Oh, I turned off his vision completely. I should have just turned off the light. And that's one thing. I always switch back and forth every time I do something with dynamic lighting, token by token. I'll add somebody's token, make sure that it works. Then I'll remove it, add a new token, make sure it works, remove it, add a token, because every time you change something, it might not work. So we did want him to have vision. We just didn't want him to have night vision. So if you don't have vision, you don't see the token at all. So now you'll see he doesn't have that sight around him, the light coming off of him. So now, having given him vision, the token vision, now you can see, you don't see where it says Torg because it's hidden. Anything on the dynamic lighting background will not show up on any of the other layers when you're looking at it. It will be hidden. So as he comes in here, all he's able to see is his view and what's being illuminated by that light. Now, since I pushed the background here, it doesn't show that. And that is kind of the weird thing. It doesn't have like refractive lighting or that. If I wanted everything to show up, I would make another light source, or I would just maybe put it here and then just say it was from the fire. But you can see that's how you can work with that. And working with that is exactly how we make that playing field for our cards down here. So if I go to objects and token, go to the dynamic lighting, okay. So I have my yellow border and I want this to be my map. I'll go ahead and leave this because I won't turn on his vision. So we'll go to the art library and I'll type in Torg and I'll pull another one of those Torg Eternity symbols down here. And I just do this on this layer. It's not going to show up on the other layers, but I just do it on this layer so I can see where it is. As you saw when I had that white square and I tried to move it down here, like if I make that white square by itself, you can't see it. Now if I put it here, it will, because it's over that, but you'll see it blends in, and it would be hard and it can get lost if you're trying to move it to someplace else. So having that Torg on the dynamic lighting, that at least lets everybody, or lets you know as a game master where it is. So we want to go to dynamic lighting, we want to turn on the vision, we want to emit the light, and I usually do it at 2 meters to make sure that it hits everything. If it was off here, you see that how that works. If it wasn't 2 meters, it would do it here, and you would see that shadow, and on the other one, you know, it goes completely black, so you wouldn't be able to see the edges. So if you expand it big enough, then it's going to cover everything. And again, if we go to the the objects and tokens, it goes away. But now this is bright and this isn't. Now to be able to see here, because if we go, we won't be able to see here because we have nothing there with vision. We can just see vision, and since he doesn't have a light source, he just sees light coming out of the room. So that's how it would be with a person who doesn't see a light source. So let's go back and correct it so that we can actually see. Now, what we want to do is, if you watched my earlier video, what I did was I made a character called Turn with a character sheet. So if we look at the sheet has nothing on it whatsoever. It's just a character sheet. And why I use this is when I have the turn order, I can add this turn, and I made it a turn sign so I could understand it easily. I put the turn on the bottom, and then I put the turn on the top, and then when people take their turns, I move them. And then once the turn's at the very bottom, I know everybody's gone. Now, if you only have a couple of players, it doesn't really make a lot of difference because you usually will remember who's gone. My personal games, I run between 7 to 8 players. With myself, that means 8 to 9 people. And trying to do turns for everybody, figure everybody else out, can be a pain. So I do this. And what I found when I was working with this dynamic lighting, the only way I was able to solve it was to make a character that everybody could control and see. And it just so happened I already had this turn order character done. So if you go to the token, double click the token, and make sure that all players control it. So it didn't have anybody, all players control it. Dynamic lighting. make sure the vision is on. Once the vision's on, I do another, just to be safe, emit 2 meters bright light. It should blend in with the other light. Then we want to open the character sheet, edit, and make sure everybody can control. You don't have to put it in the player's journals, but just make sure everybody can control and edit it. Okay. Now I put this here. Now hopefully this will work. And if we go and join as a player, and it works. Yes. So here's the player, what the player will see. The player voids, doesn't have a light source. He sees light coming out of here. He goes in, now he can see that. If he picked up a light, he would be able to see it like we showed you before. And he can play cards. I don't have player privileges for the drama deck. So let's go to the Game Master. But as the Game Master, you can drop all your cards. You can play your cards. If you use possibility tokens as tokens, you can play them here. You just have to keep that turn. If you go over here, people aren't going to see this area. They'll see this little area here. But like I said, that light blends in. But that's how you do it. You have to set up a background in the dynamic lighting that emits light, fills in that background, and the second part is to make sure you have a character token that everybody could see. If you wanted to, you could just like we have void, so we could put a void here, and then if John Paul was playing, you'd put him here, etc., etc. You could drag out an extra token for everybody. Let's make sure that that works so that I don't tell you something that is incorrect. Yes. So those are the two ways. One is to just have two sets of tokens. The other, I find it easier and it takes up less space, is you just add that turn character, because you already have that turn character if you're using it in the turn order basis. So we can get rid of those. Now, do remember, if we changed it, it's not going to be controlled by. We have to control it by everybody. Just make sure that, because we didn't change it on here. So we want to go to Edit, Remove. So if you set it up and it works one time and then it doesn't work afterwards, it's probably because you didn't add it. You didn't remove the old token and add the new token. So now this should be ready for the dynamic lighting. I'm going to go ahead and remove that token. I'll remove these. Before we play, I'll shuffle the decks and get them all ready. But I will go back up to the settings and turn off the dynamic lighting, and then turn it back on to reset it. So then the next, and I didn't see it because it was in the dynamic lighting. So I will remove that. Since no character saw it though, it's not going to show up. So that is how the dynamic lighting works. The other thing is to seal that door again. If we go to the select move, we can just move that open. So I usually don't delete them because players might want to close the door, or something might close the door on a player. So just moving it is fine. It looks like these might have got off a little. I might somehow had moved those. Let's go to the lighting. Oh, we are on that dynamic lighting. Might have somehow moved those. So I just want to make sure that those are touching all of the yellow to make sure light doesn't go through. So if we go back to the objects and tokens. So the one last thing I wanted to show you, I said that I wanted to show you something I just learned. And it's probably something that's been around on Roll20 for a while, but I just figured it out. So I showed you before that I have added the custom symbols from the Torg game. So like my very stymie, vulnerable, concentration, all of those things. So normally a stymie or stymie vulnerable conditions just last one round or until the end of your next round, your next turn. Could be 1 or 2 rounds depending on how the initiative order happens. But there are cases where things last longer. And what you can do there is if you take your mouse and you hover it above that icon, and if you just have a timer, say you have a DSR and you're counting down 5 rounds, or something else, you can just use one of these dots. But say that there are certain spells that make you like stymied or very stymied for 3 rounds. So if you just hold the cursor above it and type the number, say it lasts 3 rounds, and then click off. Don't click that here. Don't click this. It'll go away if you type the 3 there. And then you click it, see you turned it off. So you type the 3 and then you click off. And it'll say 3. And then the next round, it's your turn, you can hover it over and then you can do 2. And you can just have a little countdown going. If we zoom in, you can see it better. So you just click, go to there, the next round, now it's a 1. So that's just a cool little thing that I never knew about. About maybe 4 weeks ago, somebody showed me and it was like, oh wow, this can happen. It was with a different game, not Torg, but we had a lot of countdowns going on. People were paralyzed for various rounds. And it worked really well to figure that out. So I do apologize for the sudden stop there. And I hope, as always, you have gotten some information that you can use in Roll20. And specifically with the dynamic lighting can bring cool things into the game if you like using the maps for exploration and combat type things. So I wish everybody a good day and hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching.